All right, this is exciting. You know, I've been this whole symposium has been fantastic. I'm learning every day. I am learning so much, and that's kind of that's kind of the moral of the story in this exciting new world of medicinal mushrooms. That honestly, we don't really know a lot, and we have a lot to learn, and it can take some time. Personally, I've been foraging for mushrooms. It's been a decade, so I've been, and I'm still discovering new things every time I go to the forest. So this is going to be kind of fun. What you're in for tonight is a sort of like a photographic journey through my experiences foraging for medicinal mushrooms in Western Canada. So let's see if we can get my presentation up here. Okay. And here we go. Okay. Oh, you're getting a sneak peek. Okay, let's start the presentation here. Okay, is that looking good, Malcolm?
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, native wild medicinal mushrooms to know. So this entire presentation is focused on a couple of very important, we want to make some points here, some key points. One of them, and the most important, is that we don't even know what we have in our forests in Canada. Our forests here are loaded with incredibly valuable medicinal mushrooms, and we don't even know it. So that's really what we want to do today, is for you to be able to identify certain of the key medicinal species. And once you know them, most of these medicinal mushrooms are once you know what they look like, they're very easy to identify. So, and hopefully, once people know what they're looking at in the forest, that this is treasure, incredibly valuable medicinally, perhaps we're going to start to really put value on our forests, and especially the older the forest, the richer in mushroom species. So hopefully through education, hopefully with people spending more time in the forest, we're going to see that we're going to treasure these forests, and that hopefully one day they're going to be more valuable to us as intact ecosystems, rather than, timber to build these quite questionable developments that have been going on recently. So, all right. Is everyone excited? This is going to be fun. All right. So to begin our presentation, I'd like to introduce you to the most common medicinal mushroom you are most likely to find in the forest. So what we have here is the red-belted polypore. It's pretty easy to remember. Fomitopsis pinicola. So in my experience, when you drink this mushroom as a tea, it is just as good as reishi mushroom. There's so much hype. A lot of these medicinal mushrooms are very well marketed and very well researched. And these wild varieties don't have as much hype, and they don't have as much research backing them up, but they're still quite well researched, and they have incredible medicinal properties. So, all medicinal mushrooms are incredibly valuable. But let's see if I can find the Fomitopsis pinicola in my little book here, just to give you an idea of its medicinal properties. Let's see. Oh, well. Yeah, this is one that deserves more research. See, it's not even in my little booklet here, but I've noticed that when you make a tea out of this stuff, it's a very similar effect as reishi. You get an immediate sense of calm and immediate kind of zen. And it tastes real. I love the flavor of this mushroom. It tastes really nice. It's not too bitter or anything. Yeah, red belted polypore, Fomitopsis pinicola. I've put all the Latin names in this because often the common names are very confusing. But this photo here is a great example of when you're hunting for these mushrooms in the forest, generally I'll only pick maybe 1 out of every 5 I find. I only will pick them if there's quite an abundance of them, but just one of these mushrooms for me is enough to make tea for a couple of months. You know, just one of these mushrooms is enough for me to have medicine for quite a while. So that's one of the first rules of foraging is, you know, don't take more than what you really need. That's but yeah, these mushrooms seem to find me in the forest. I can hear them calling out. It's very interesting. They want to make I do really feel in my heart these mushrooms want to be made into medicine and want to interact with humans. And this might be more esoteric than you think. It could, but yeah, there is a lot of them when you find them. You see, I just picked 2 out of. I've probably found dozens of these this one day. That was in the Crown Lands in the North Ghost region. It's one of the coolest Crown Lands close to Calgary. It's called the North Ghost Public Land Use Zone. And I actually really don't feel too bad about picking the mushrooms there just because of the terrible clear cutting that's occurring there right now. You know, if we're talking about ethical foraging, we have to start to talk about the terrible things happening in our forests close to home. We're gonna have a little call to action on the end here, but yeah, these guys came home with me, and yeah, I made tea, I made tincture, I made medicine, and shared that with my friends and family. Yeah, when you find a mushroom like this, oh yeah, these can grow to humongous sizes. I did not, of course, pick this one. It was like it was the biggest one I've ever seen in Alberta. If you go across into BC, you can find them growing like this too. But in Alberta, this was like the grandmother red belt. I kissed her or him. I don't know I think I don't know. It could be a him because this is the reproductive organ and it's gonna send some spores out. Yeah, I left that one and I might have grabbed one of the ones in the back you could see there. Yeah, these things can grow huge. So here's one I found that actually it was in the forest and it had fallen off the tree right before. It was on the forest floor when I found it. So I feel like it wanted to come with me. You always ask the mushroom if it wants to go with you, and sometimes they'll pop right off in your hands. Sometimes they'll not budge, and I'll leave those ones. They want to stay there. But yeah, see, I'd even just use this tiny little Finnish knife, very sharp, mind you. But with that, so this was quite fresh. It was not dried to a rock yet. And I sliced it with that tiny knife into these little slices. See, I wanted them to dry really well. And I also wanted to create the most surface area so that when you make tea, you're going to get a really strong extraction faster. You know, you could put the whole honker in a pot, but it'll take a lot longer to get the same strength of tea. So yeah, the red belted polypore, honestly, I believe this is just as powerful as reishi mushroom. So that's your first of these of all the medicinal mushrooms you're likely to find in the forests here that are seriously undervalued, in my opinion. Okay, next up. Oh ho ho! All right, so here we have the artist's conch mushroom, Ganoderma applanatum. Ganoderma is it's a cousin of the reishi mushroom. Reishi, the famous reishi, is Ganoderma lucidum, and here we have Ganoderma applanatum. So I truly believe this is this is the reishi that grows here for us. And it's another one that is when you find them, there's a lot of them. You'll find these growing a lot on fallen logs. And sometimes one tree will have like a dozen of these growing off the sides of them. So the artist's conch. And so the red belted we talked about earlier is an annual mushroom, I believe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that, but this one's actually perennial. So each of these rings is apparently like a year of growth. So it's quite neat. It's called the ancient reishi in Chinese medicine, and potentially this one could even be more medicinal than reishi itself. It seems like this could be even more powerful than reishi. We just need to do more research about it. It's cool that apparently gorillas in Africa love eating this mushroom. Oh yeah, so here's a close-up of the spores on the bottom. I really love checking out the spores or the spore pad here. This is why we call these mushrooms the noble tree polypores, because underneath it looks like a few things, and it can give you an idea of what these mushrooms are good for. It does look like the pores of your skin, and this is a more bitter mushroom, and it actually does taste. It tastes a little bit bitter. I like it though. It's like coffee. And it's actually, as Patrick was explaining on Tuesday, the bitter flavor is actually very good for the liver. And this mushroom I would consider to be a very nice bitter liver tonic. And the liver is responsible for having very clear skin. So that's one of the laws of similarities you might take from these mushrooms. The other thing that's going on here is that it looks a lot like bone marrow. It looks like bone marrow, and it's cool because the science is showing when we ingest medicinal mushrooms, our body actually takes the compounds, the beta glucans, and it brings them into our bone marrow. And it's in our bone marrow that's where essentially it gives our body the building material to build white blood cells and immune cells. So it's one of the reasons these mushrooms are so powerful. So that's really, I'll look and stare at these pores and get mesmerized by them. But yeah, really cool. So that's the artist conch. And the other cool thing, and the reason that it's called the artist conch, is that you can carve on the bottom and make art with them. So you just have to I just use my fingernail to make this little fungi. But yeah, I took my little knife and sliced these up. You can see these are the growth rings. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this was like 4 or 5-year-old mushroom. And when you brew this up, it makes like a deep chocolatey brown tea. And I definitely, when I drink this, feel that same kind of zen is how I can describe from the reishi. Yeah, magic. So I love to have this as a tincture, or a tea, or you can put it in your broth you're making. It's fantastic. The ancient reishi. Okay. Well, we're making good progress through the species. So Ganoderma applanatum, artist conch. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. All right. Okay, let's check our next species here. Oh, there's just another shot of, I just take a knife and I did it right on the grass. You want to slice it up and dry it well. And then you'll make some fantastic teas and tinctures. All right. Oh, okay, so this brings up the other species of reishi that I've found in the wild. West Coast reishi, Ganoderma oregonensis, or Ganoderma tsuga, because it grows on hemlocks. So I've heard of people finding this as far into the interior as Nelson and stuff. Wherever you find hemlocks, you're going to find this reishi growing. As you can see on this occasion, this reishi had spored, and it was covered with the chocolate brown spores. There's my friend and I licking the spores and making war paint with it. And I tell you, after that, I really felt different. I felt different after eating all those spores. I felt like my vision increased and I could really feel the forest all around me talking to me. Yeah, this is one of the occasions where I was on Vancouver Island and I was so excited to go look for wild reishi, and we had been walking. I had not found one yet. It was like a couple hours into our foray. And then all of a sudden I just felt it. It's kind of like, I don't know if you ever felt, you can feel someone watching or something. I was going down the trail and I just turned and I could feel there was something around the bend, and bam, there it was. The reishi was there, and it was almost like it wanted us to find it. It's so cool. And so yeah, look at that. So it's cool. The West Coast reishi is an annual. So if you find a spot where it's growing, it regrows every year. The same mushroom will grow from the same spot every year. So here you can see the deep, like the really, really thick spore pad here. That's the gills that have evolved into being pore-like structures. But this, apparently in Chinese markets, you grade the better reishi. The better reishi you can buy is the one that has a thicker spore pad. So you can see that this is a super quality reishi. And fascinatingly, it tastes so good. It doesn't taste bitter. It tastes like chicken broth or umami. It's so yummy and fantastic. But yeah, what a treasure. The wild West Coast reishi. That's really neat. So yeah, what a beautiful thing. But yeah, I heard a terrible, terrible story of someone had an old growth near their house of hemlock, and every year it would make a big quantity of these reishis, and then one year the whole thing was gone. They built like a house or housing development or something. Quite terrible. I believe their intention was to get the big trees to sell them and then build houses there. But oh boy, if only people knew. Well, that's what we're doing tonight. Hopefully one day we'll be protecting these species before we do any kind of development. But yeah, I'm very, very fond of this reishi. You can also find a lot of reishis throughout North America, and in fact, throughout the world. It's fascinating. Oh, there's that handsome, the most handsome of herbalists, herbal Jedi, Yarrow Willard. Look how big his reishi is. Holy, it's a honker. But yeah, it is a noble thing to work with these mushrooms and kind of bring their consciousness to the people. That's kind of neat. I wonder if I have time to tell a story. Let's see. I wonder if I should tell the story of when Terry Willard went down to the Amazon and found wild reishi growing. So one year I was helping Terry Willard in his garden, and there was a few of us doing weeding, and he told us this story that has always stuck with me. So I'm kind of paraphrasing. So this is the story as how I remember it. So Terry Willard, of course, knew about reishi and he knew what the properties were. But one year he was hired to go to the Amazon to study with medicine people and to discover perhaps uses of plants we didn't know about. And so he was working with a certain medicine man, and the medicine man took him every day for a little walk in the forest or the jungle, because there is reishi in the Amazon. Yeah, there's reishi on Hawaii. There's a lot of reishi in the East Coast. But anyway, they would walk along and Terry Willard would see the reishi mushroom and ask the medicine person, the herbal man, so what does this plant do? And the medicine man was quiet, didn't say anything. They kept going. They found another reishi. He's like, what does this plant do? Oh, he kept going. Finally, he asked him, what does this plant do, when he found another reishi? And the medicine man said, that is not a plant at all. That is a being older and wiser than the whole jungle. And it lives underground. And it knows every plant and every tree in the whole jungle. And so that kind of blew Terry Willard away, like, wow, these people understood mycelium and mycelium networks way before we did. And how did they get a hold of that knowledge? It's obviously through directly communicating with these plants. So I don't know, it gave me goosebumps when I heard that. And then the medicine man went on and continued to say, we use this as medicine when we go to the city and we're lonely for the jungle. We're lonely for our home in the plants. And when we feel that loneliness inside of the city, that's when we take a little piece and chew on it or something. And then we feel at home again. We feel at home amongst the forest while we're lonely in the city. All right, well, I hope I did that story justice for you, Terry Willard, but that's always stuck with me. This is not a plant at all. It's very cool. Okay, a little food for thought. All right, yeah, Yarrow Willard, you know, Terry Willard was the first one to actually introduce me to medicinal mushrooms. But Yarrow Willard is one of the ones that actually started I've gone out into the forest with him a few times and absolutely learned a lot from this guy. So it's an honor to be working with these heroes, mentors, mushroom mentors. Okay, well. Oh, and then I had to sneak this photo in there. It's my selfie when I got to meet Paul Stamets. And I got to do about 3 different mushroom walks with Paul Stamets. And yeah, that's, I found a very nice reishi specimen. But yeah, what a cool experience. Apparently every year Paul Stamets does a retreat in British Columbia called Hollyhock. But yeah, I got to spend about 5 days with this guy. And I can tell you, he is so kind and so humble. And this is one of the people that really got me on my path too. I would highly encourage you guys to check him out on YouTube. Some of his YouTube videos are just astonishing. Highly recommended. Oh, well. Oh, okay. So here we have the turkey tails. So there's various species of turkey tails growing in Western North America. This is a real, I guess, a real turkey tail this was from Vancouver area. And what a power, as we are understanding, what a powerful, powerful medicinal mushroom. You know, turkey tail is one of the very researched ones. So if we, it's definitely got antibacterial, antioxidant, anti-tumor, antiviral, immune enhancing, kidney protecting, and liver protecting actions. And those are, that's actually been found through research. So a lot of what we know about turkey tail, I'm pretty sure that we can say that about a lot of these species, Yeah, a lot more research has to be done on these treasures. But yeah, they grows in abundance when you find it. There's so much of it. In Alberta, we have a few different species that generally resemble turkey tails. The common one here in Calgary area is Trametes hirsuta. It's called hirsuta, which means hairy, because on the bottom it doesn't look like pores, but it's kind of like the pores are kind of starting to elongate. It looks kind of toothy, and it's white on top. Oh, there's all sorts of different like little turkey tail looking guys around here. One of my favorites, the violet one, where it's white on the top and violet on the bottom. And I'll take a couple and I'll brew them as tea to test them out. And generally, I've always enjoyed them, though a few of them are incredibly bitter. But maybe that's the medicine. Bitter is better. No, yeah. If you want to find the real turkey tails like this, you kind of have to go into British Columbia. Yeah, what a beautiful, beautiful mushroom. Okay. Oh, okay. So we're coming up to chaga. So chaga does grow in Alberta. You must go where the birch trees grow. So on the left hand here, this is actually some chaga I got from northern Alberta. You have to start driving, and you get up about 3 hours north. Once you get to the boreal forest, you're going to start finding birch. And if you know what you're looking for, generally you can find the chaga. So that's its Latin name, Inonotus obliquus. Inonotus because you're not going to notice it when you find it. Except for this one on the right, that's a big honker from New Brunswick. That's a really nice big honker. The birch grows bigger out there, I guess. I don't know why. I've never found anything like that around here, but there's still lots of exploring to do. Yeah, this stuff is fantastic. So when you find the chaga, the way to pick it is I use a chisel and hammer, and you just take a chunk. You never want to expose the heartwood of the tree. If you see, this is all pure orange. If you dug too deeply, you would see that you get wood. You never want to go that deep. So you just take a chunk off of the ones you find, and I've actually gone back to this place, and I found the ones that I picked had a like 2 or 3 inches of growth that had grown back. So it's pretty cool to see that. Yeah, just take a chunk and it'll grow back and you can return to the same spot. Chaga is pretty cool stuff. So let's see here. Oh yeah, so when you get it home, like you want to kind of chunk it up. It's interesting because they're both the Russians and the North American indigenous people, the Cree, for example, they'd actually peel off the black stuff to make the tea with, and I'm not sure why, but both the Russians and the Native Americans do that. I suspect it's because the black stuff can have like a bitter, sometimes it can have different like bitter, like you can find other lichens and stuff on the outside of it. I suspect that's why they peel it off. I've been saving all my black stuff from the outside. So I like to tincture that, or I've been saving it to try to do wild cultivation of chaga in the forest. So chaga has been very, very popular in Russia since like the 50s. A famous book came out, The Cancer Ward, and this guy talked about his experience healing himself from cancer by going into the forest and fasting and just drinking chaga tea. Apparently he was drinking 2 liters of really strong tea every day, so strong you could not see through it. And it's pretty cool. There's the Russian method of making the chaga is a 2-step process, but the first step apparently is just to soak it in cold water. So you get this cold water extract, and then you take those chunks out and you simmer them, and then you combine the two and you drink them. And then the chunks, they have a big jar next to their stove, and they will have it full of vodka, and they'll put the chunks into the vodka, and then they call it medicated vodka. They'll take it like, they'll drink it like vodka by the shot, and it's pretty good. My friend in Vancouver was doing that in his morning coffee, and he named the drink Chaga Whiskers, because I think he made it with whiskey, Chaga Whiskers, but you would have that for breakfast and you would feel like a wild animal prowling through the streets of Vancouver. Well, we were going into the forest, but it definitely, I've noticed with chaga, like a heightened senses. Like when I drink it, my vision is sharper, and for some reason, trees and stuff seem to be more vibrant in my vision. It's very interesting. So yeah, there you are in the chaga forest. You do have to climb up in the trees. I think I'm like 20 feet up here. I'm using these hunting ladders that you strap them on the tree and you can get pretty high up there. There's some cool ways to climb trees, but yeah, when you're up there, I think this was in November. So it's one thing to remember about when you're hunting for chaga is that often it's in the same season that there's deer hunters. So that's why I always wear a reflective vest. I think this was in November one year. It's important to wear a reflective vest so that you're visible to the hunters. And also, I just, honestly, when I'm in the forest, usually I'll sing. For one thing, just to warn the bears that I'm around, or I'll just sing like I'll sing my heart out, and the bears are like, oh man, that creature is brave he's just bravely singing. He must not be afraid of me, so I'm gonna be afraid of him. But yeah, I've never had any bad experiences. Yeah, I do the same thing when I guess the hunters are gonna get pissed and move to a new spot because I'm scaring all the deer away. Well, that's my theory anyway. But yeah, I've never had a bad time, and usually I go on the weekdays because it's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons the Native American knew that white man was crazy was that the fish, like for fishing, the fish would be biting 7 days of the week. And yet the white man rushes madly to the forest on only the weekends, those 2 days of the week. Just doesn't make sense. That's when like they realized that we were crazy. But yeah, it's the same in the chaga forest when it's the weekend. There are so many people out there, but in the weekdays, sometimes I seldom hear a rifle go off. Oh yeah, but here, yeah, you got the real way to identify chaga. I know there's so many people that think they've found chaga when it's actually like a burl that's growing on aspen. So aspen will grow these big honking black things too. But yeah, there's your the way to tell chaga is this punky white, punky orange, golden stuff inside. It won't be like hard as wood inside, and it's growing on birch. So yeah, then you get home and you drink your chaga tea, and it's the same with all of these medicinal mushrooms that you're gonna actually. It's one of the magical aspects of foraging your own medicine is that when I drink this chaga tea, for me, I am transported to the forest. I'm transported to that day I spent in nature. I'm transported to, the fantastic times I had in there. So that chaga tea, for me, is like 10,000 times more potent medicine, perhaps, than, you know, I do honestly appreciate all chaga because it all comes from the wild. The Russians developed a method to wild cultivate the chaga in the forest. It involves spreading chaga around the forest floor, and the mycelium starts living in the forest there. And then they wound the trees with hatchets, and then a chaga will start growing out of the wound. So they're actually farming the forest, and I'd love to. I'm going to do some experiments of that this year. I'm going to see if I can get some chaga growing. It'll be kind of fun because when you do find chaga, it's always quite localized, so like the mycelium's living there. Oh well, that's some good stuff. One of the coolest things about chaga is it has vanilla aromatic vanilla compounds in it, and it is a lovely, lovely thing. Okay, let's keep moving. Okay, so this brings you to the aspen conch, and this is one of the more common medicinal mushrooms you're gonna find in the area around here. And fascinatingly, this, like, I don't know if you were watching Derek's presentation, but that was yesterday. It's honestly such a powerhouse, and it's growing everywhere around here. I honestly call this the chaga of Calgary, because when you drink it, it makes like a rich, dark tea. And I think it's just as good as chaga, Chaga's got all this hype. This aspen guy, although a little bit bitter, my favorite recipe with it is my friend Killian. He'll actually boil this and make like a strong tea, and then he'll brew his coffee in the tea. So it's like aspen conch coffee, and it's fantastic. But yeah, this one definitely needs more research. Last I heard, they were doing like DNA analysis of this mushroom, and they were actually considering changing its name to Enonotus tremulae, which would mean it's directly related to chaga. So very fascinating. That's cool. This is one of the ones that has so much potential, and it's growing in abundance around here. I often wonder how many of these end up in like the wood chipper. Yeah, super cool to check that one out. All right, this is the Amadou. This is the one you'll find more up in the birch. Amadou fomes fomentarius. This loves birch trees, so you can find it if you go up north or if you go up to the, if you go up, if you go into BC, you'll start finding birch too. So you might like that trip better to go off into Revelstoke or Golden. You'll start finding birch. But yeah, that's a really cool one. I honestly have not worked with this one, though. This one and this next one, the birch polypore, both of these were found in the Iceman's medicine chest. So these have been used for a long, long time by our ancestors. Otzi was in the Alps, right? And how did we lose the knowledge of using these for medicine? It's a good question. What happened? I wonder. Okay, here's our next guy. Oh yeah, the birch polypore is I like it, but it's a little bit bitter. I love this one as a tincture. Whenever I tincture anything, it guarantees I'm gonna drink it. Hey, so I made some pretty yummy like strange drinks out of this one. Medicated vodka. Yeah, that one's a very beautiful one. Okay, we're gonna keep going here a little bit. So yeah, here we go. Here's the wild lion's mane of Alberta. Hericium. Well, I'm not sure if this is the hericium that grows on fir. That abites, I don't know how to pronounce that, but that means something that's growing on fir trees. This one was growing on a fallen spruce, I believe. So I'm not sure what the Latin name for this one is. Hericium coralloides. That's its name. Hericium coralloides, because it looks like coral. So you can see its many branchedness. This is a frickin' treasure when you find it. Damn. Man, was I ever happy when I found that one. But yeah, that's what it looks like. And you can see those teeth-like structures. And this is just as good as lion's mane. It's another one that when you find it, it's annual. And if you have a spot, you're going to find it over and over again when you go there. But yeah, unmistakable when you find this branching white fungus that looks like the nerves and with these teeth. Apparently the teeth are like, the teeth are the most advanced evolution of mushrooms. So apparently mushrooms started with gills and then they got polypores and then they turned into this. This is the most evolved of the mushroom structure. Very cool. Yeah, I tinctured this and I was doing kind of the same thing, medicated vodka. I tell you, if you want to feel like the real effect of lion's mane, like a saintly halo is the only way I can describe like the effects I got from drinking my tincture of this stuff by the healthy little ounce after a meal. Yeah, I felt the saintly glow. I kind of do that with herbs. I like doing a corporeal dose or a real physical dose. Oh yeah, there's a little close up of those teeth. It's a beauty. Yeah, and when you find them, you'll find quite a bit of them. So yeah, I'd come back every year to this spot, and it seemed that not only was there more of it when I kept coming back, I think the forest could tell how happy I was about finding it, but not only was there more of it, but yeah, it kept growing in the same spot. I picked these at the same time that wild raspberries are ripe. So in Alberta, that was, I don't know, the end of June, July, something like that. Those were the wild mountain raspberries. You know, Eric Whitehead totally reminded me I should have put Usnea lichen in this presentation because I consider Usnea a very powerful medicinal mushroom because it is part mushroom, part algae, and it has the same medicinal compounds that make medicinal mushrooms so powerful. All right. So, but the saddest thing happened. This is my spot, my lion's mane spot. Just totally got mowed down. That was in McLean Creek at like kind of like down by Bragg Creek there. Oh boy, that's another public land use zone, like Crown land, the McLean Creek public land use zone. It's another place where the clear cutting is so bad. So I'm gonna share some links with you guys in the resources tomorrow. There's a few groups that are starting to really, there's some groups that are starting to do some really good work to prevent this kind of thing. Oh, damn. Luckily, I found some more spots to find those lines, man. Oh, damn. Well, I was just going to give you a quick tour of some of the unmistakable edible ones. So let's try to do it pretty quick here. I know probably we got some good questions from everyone. Yeah, most edible wild fungi are indeed medicinal as well. So let's check it out here. Yeah, with edible mushrooms, it's a lot harder to ID some of them. This was this was actually one of the most delicious I ever had. The shaggy parasol. It was growing in a farmer's field, an organic farm, so I wasn't too worried or anything. But yeah, it took us, I don't know, it took me and this was with Patrick. It took Patrick about an hour to be like sure that this was a good one to eat. But once you know them and once you can identify them, this one's actually pretty easy to ID once you're familiar with the characteristics. But yeah, frickin', it was delicious. So, okay, here's the very first edible mushroom I familiarized myself with, the morel. You know, it's quite unmistakable, and even the false morels are, I don't know how anyone could misidentify the two, but the medicine of the morel is like, you know, this was the first time I ever ate a wild mushroom, and I really felt like part of the forest. I felt it was one of the first times I ever like ate heartily from the forest and felt filled, and I felt like I was part of the forest. It's a really interesting feeling to be made of the landscape. It's kind of addictive. Well, it was a rare feeling for me growing up till then. That was about 10 years ago. That was my very first edible mushroom I was confident to eat. So yeah, I got some nice chives from my garden, some nice morels there. Filled my hat. But yeah, they're very easy to identify once you know them. These are the golden ones. They're different than the forest fire ones. These ones like growing down in the river bottoms. Yeah, it's pretty. They're yummy. But yeah, that's what mushrooms do to you. You start. That's what eating wild mushrooms will do to you. You'll turn out like me, maybe. Oh yeah, so here's the puffballs. Very, very yummy. I love eating puffballs. When you cut them in half and they're pure white inside, that's when you know you have a puffball. I guess some mushrooms look like puffballs when they're little, but if you cut them in half, you'll see the gill structures, and that is not a puffball. It should be pure white through and through, and that's when you want to eat them, because as these mature, they'll make all those spores. That's another talk about how to use those spores. But yeah, okay, we're gonna keep going here. Huh? Yeah, that's what happens to you when you eat the wild mushrooms. So there's the giant puffball. It makes you feel exhilaration. It makes you feel It makes you feel really happy. The giant puffball loves growing in grassy lands. Yeah, check it out. I've got lots of photos of people that are so happy about finding mushrooms. And eventually I think I've got a book about the wild mushrooms coming. Yeah, people are just so happy. Look at that big honker. That one, we sliced it into slices like thick as a steak, and it's fantastic. Secret to cooking a puffball: cook it with no oil first in a cast iron pan, and you cook it until like all the water goes out. You'll have it on the pan, and all this water will start sizzling off. You want to let that all evaporate, and then when you don't see any more of that water coming off of it, you put a little oil or butter or and then you fry it till it gets golden. But yeah, that's freaking delicious. Food as medicine. Ooh, there's your oysters. Okay, I think there's only a couple more here. Oyster mushrooms are unmistakable. They'll grow in clusters like this off of living or dead poplar or aspen. There's no other mushroom that grows like this in Alberta in clusters like that off of trees. The oysters, and they have a very particular scent. But yeah, you can tell that their gills have this like wavy thing going on, and they're long, and they all grow down to a central stem. Yeah, oh, fantastic. These grow in Alberta around June after a rain. Man, oh man, are they yummy. My mouth is watering. And when you find them, oh, look, these were when raspberries were ripe. So that's like end of June. Cook those up. Damn, I'm getting hungry here. Oh, here's one from the urban landscape, the shaggy mane. You do want to be careful where you pick these and eat them, because you don't want to pick them like from a golf course where they douse that stuff with pesticides. So make sure the person doesn't use pesticides on their lawn. They're prime when they're white like this. They do turn into this black inky mess. This is a very yummy one. I love it. Okay, and here's your kind of bolete from Alberta. Oh man, like Sinum boreal. This one's pretty impossible to misidentify because underneath it's a pored mushroom. So underneath it has these pores instead of gills. This one's fairly easy to identify, and it's pretty yummy. But you have to know how to cook them. As I was saying, cook them till the water evaporates, and then you add your oil. This is like the bolete of the land. Every year I dry a whole bunch of these. And again, they keep growing from the same areas, so mark your spots. Yeah, I dry them and use them in stews and soups and rice. Ha! Here's the slippery jack, so it's a relative of the one we just saw. Slippery jack because it's super slimy and it turns people off. But what I do with this, I dry them and then I powder them and I add them to my soups, and it gives it like a thickening quality that's really yummy. Oh, we got chanterelles here. Oh man, okay. You have to go to the West Coast to find chanterelles. That was from Vancouver. Everyone always has fun when they find mushrooms. But here, this is the chanterelle that grows in Alberta. This is called the pig's ears. This one's impossible to misidentify because chanterelles have ridges instead of gills. This one tastes like bacon. It's fantastic. Oh, brings us to the hedgehog mushroom. This one is like actually related to chanterelles, I understand, but it has evolved to have the teeth. And most likely, I was asking Robert Rogers, most likely the hedgehogs have the same nerve growth factor as the lion's mane, but these are fantastic. Choice edible, impossible to misidentify when they look like an apricot and they have these teeth. When you find them, they're quite abundant. They're fantastic, man. Oh well. Oh, here's another one, impossible to misidentify. Delicious Milky Cap. Orange with this bright orange inside that when you cut it, it bleeds. That's why it's called a lactarius. Deliciosa. This is honestly a prime one. When you bruise it, it turns green, and the top will be green sometimes. Yeah, frick. It's one of the I consider edible mushrooms very medicinal, just because it makes you feel like you ate them. Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna blast through my sides. This one's impossible to misidentify as well. This one is sweet. It tastes like a maple syrup. It's fantastic. There's lots of little kind of coral mushrooms, they're called, but this one has this really fat top and yeah, freaking delicious maple syrup flavor. Honey mushrooms, this one's actually harder to identify, but it has, it grows in clusters and it has this yellow stuff. That one's actually tricky. That one's a trickier one, but I have, whenever I find mushrooms with gills, I have a hard time identifying them. As you saw, all those other ones, most of them had pores on the bottom or teeth. Yeah, gilled mushrooms are something I'm still learning a lot about. Yeah, for example, my friend Killian, I wonder how many delicious mushrooms I've walked past without knowing what they were. So it's good to have a friend and to learn from experts, because I would have walked right by this. I was like, oh, it's got gills. I guess you identify it because it grows in these clusters like that. He just knew what it was, and you cook it up. Frick, it tasted good. It was like fried chicken. Yeah, I don't know if I'd be confident to identify that one again, but yeah. Oh boy. Oh, yeah, there I am teaching classes here at Lightseller about the mushrooms. That's how it's kind of started. I was teaching about reishi, about cordyceps, about lion's mane. And that's when I really started wondering about what mushrooms are in our forests and what treasures do we have in the forest that are incredibly valuable. Yeah, I think the more people that go to the forest and enjoy themselves there, it's gonna be better for the earth, because you can only truly treasure what you know, right? A lot of people in the city have no idea what's in the forest, so they don't really value it the same way. Someone that knows about it, someone that drinks the mushroom tea from the forest, someone who eats the wild mushrooms from the forest and feels like they're part of it. I think that's very important, that we do need more people to go in the forest and forage, of course, in a respectful way. But that way I think we're gonna really have a strong ability to protect it. So go forth into the forest, everyone. Yeah, and that's my Instagram, Forage Your Food. It's pretty badass, if I say so, but if you go there and scroll through, you're gonna see all sorts of cool stuff, edible greens and plants and food plants, medicine plants. And I've just started a YouTube, Forage Your Food TV. I'll put a link to it in the resources for everyone. But this is exciting. It's just the beginning. We're gonna have a lot of fun. And I think the future is fungi and fungals working together to protect our valuable forests. But yeah, I guess now I can start taking some questions. What do you think? What do you think, Malcolm? I can't see the time here, so oh man.
You bring up the questions.
It looks like we went a little bit over, but I'm gonna do my best to answer all the questions afterwards too in the chats if we don't get to them.
Okay, right on. So let's get into it. We had a bunch of questions that were coming up. Do different mushrooms have different seasons? Like, are some good in the spring and some better in the fall? Question mark.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Foraging is always a seasonal activity. So as far as the medicinal mushrooms go, yeah, certain of them, like the chaga, it's better to pick it in the winter. You can kind of tell when they're vibrant. So the reishi mushrooms on the West Coast, for example, their season's like August, and if you come after that, they turn all black and brown, and you definitely don't want to make medicine with that. You'll know when you find a medicinal mushroom and it's vibrant, what you want to make sure there's no mold underneath or anything, and you can tell. But yet, a lot of mushrooms are seasonal like that.
All right. Does Light Cellar take people mushroom foraging as a class?
I think you can answer that one, Malcolm.
For sure. So we do, and often I'll do them with Denis. The challenge with the mushroom foraging, so we do, basically wild foraging, plant foraging, and one of the biggest challenges with making it a specific to mushroom foray is it's just hard to guarantee the seasonality that, okay, on this day, this weekend, we're going to go out and we're going to find morels, or we're going to find, XYZ. So we do often include it as part of just a general kind of plant walk.
Yeah, hopefully by the summertime we're going to be able to take larger groups outdoors. But yeah, we stay tuned. We're going to be doing some foraging walks this summer for sure.
Okay, Simon asks, are there any toxic morels?
Well, so I mean, there's the one called the false morel. It just looks it looks completely different than the morel. So I'm not sure how people get confused, but yeah, it does not have the same like honeycombed texture. It's more like lumpy. But some people do eat those ones, but it's like a famine food. You'll read about Russians and Finland people eating them, but you have to boil them in lots of changes of water. And basically they know about how to eat those ones because they were hungry. I might try it one day. But yeah, they're poisonous if you don't prepare them correctly. You'll just feel gastrointestinal distress.
Okay, is the Fomes fomentarius the same as hoof fungus? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, there's so many. That's why it's really good to learn the Latin names when you start working with these mushrooms, because I was calling for the longest time the Felinus species hoof fungus because it looked to me like a hoof. I was like, yeah, that's the hoof fungus. But in fact, it's called the false tinderconch or something. But oh yeah, it's better. Yeah, that's one of the good reasons why you should learn your Latin names.
Yeah, that's kind of the next level is, as you learn the common names, as you're beginning to develop in that ID, then to learn the Latin names at the same time. So we're just going off here.
Oh, sweet.
All right. Okay, I'm just scanning for some more questions here. So Rachel asked, can you put it on YouTube as well for those not wanting on those others?
Yeah, that's what you're doing. Hey, Malcolm, when we Malcolm's going to send out the videos tomorrow for everyone to watch, and it's going to be a link to a private YouTube. So yeah, you can watch them there.
Yeah, totally. And then Denis, you've also just started a YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, Forage Your Food TV. That's going to be fun. Oops. Yeah, there we go.
All right.
Okay, let's check if there's some questions on Facebook.
Okay, so there were two questions about kind of the seasonality of the mushrooms. So a lot of the medicinal mushrooms that Eric talked about tonight, you can find them year round. For instance, like the Fomes fomentarius, the Piptoporus botulinus, or the birch polypore, or the razor conch that he talked about, the Ganoderma applanatum, the Fomitopsis pinicola, the red-belted polypore. A lot of those you can find year round. And then it's a lot of these other ones, you know, kind of the annuals, right? So the earliest, the first one to come up in the spring is the morels. So there's, I like to say, when the Saskatoon blooms, you'll find these shrooms. So that's, morels are the first. And then you'll find some oyster mushrooms, right? And that's a little bit later June, spring and even into the summer. And you'll find some mushrooms throughout the summer, but really it's kind of, you know, mid to late summer. Yeah.
August, September. In Alberta, we have a very short edible kind of mushroom season. If you go to Vancouver, I'm so jealous. I've seen them still foraging yummy mushrooms into November.
Yeah.
Like, they got 4 months of prime mushroom picking.
Yeah, and that's where you'll find all those other ones that Denis had shared, including the chanterelles and on and on.
So I got a question from Eric of Whitehead here about smoking. Oh yeah, great comment from Paula. In Alberta, it depends on the rain,
Yeah.
We've had some great years here with the rain. Some years they're so dry, there's no mushrooms. So.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Let me grab a couple of like foraging books. It's just reminding me. One of the best is called "All That the Rain Promises and More." You know,
all that the rain does promise and more.
Yeah. Grab that.
So Eric Whitehead was asking, can you smoke medicinal mushrooms? And the answer is yes. And in fact, this is the book, The Fungal Pharmacy. This is his first edition one. The other one's quite big, but it's fascinating how all of the different medicinal mushrooms, they talk about how you can put them in your pipe and smoke them. I've heard about chaga, how you would put a little chunk of chaga in the bottom of your pipe, and this would keep your pipe lit as you're making your prayers, so that it didn't go out in between like these long prayers for blessings. And I've tried it. I've put some chaga in my pipe, and I tell you, it makes you feel interesting. It had a very similar effect to make my vision heightened and my senses heightened. Very interesting.
All right, so this is, in my opinion, one of the best kind of pocket guides, field guides. All That the Rain Promises and More.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah, because it's hilarious, right? Like all the pictures are really fun, and they're well done, and it actually covers off, you know, like a lot of practical information for a huge number of types of mushrooms and areas. And it will just fit in your pocket. And if you want to go deeper, it's then also connected to this book called Mushrooms Demystified, David Aurora. And just look, you can see how thick that is. So, you know, kind of quick little reference. It talks to you how to kind of like identify them. So you can begin to like, okay, does it have, Denis mentioned this tonight, does it have gills? Does it have pores? Does it have a sponge layer? Does it have da-da-da-da-da? And then you can kind of go deeper from there.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's focused on edible. Birdie's asking if this is available from our online shop.
It's not. We have it in store, but if you could call us or email us and we can kind of arrange to get it to you, but we don't have it listed on our web store.
But yeah, it's fantastic because it does focus on edible mushrooms, and each one will, and the lookalikes you want to avoid. So yeah, fantastic. And it's full of hilarious stories. There's those fantastic hedgehogs. Edibility, choice, and edible. Yeah, this is fantastic. All That the Rain Promises. Apparently, if you search that on Google Images, there's a picture of me that pops up. I might have put it as my hashtag or something on Instagram. Okay, and then here's another fantastic. This is actually a reprint of an old book. Mushrooms of Western Canada. You can get this from Lone Pine. This is full of the most beautiful illustrations. It was written by this lady, Helena, and she was like one of the old school Alberta mycologists. But she did amazing illustrations, botanical illustrations of the mushrooms. And this has honestly taught me so much. This book, I would flip through it and be like, oh, darn, I saw that. Oh, darn. It's a good thing I didn't eat that one. Or is it? It's like, you know what I mean? So somehow these illustrations capture like so many of the details that you need to know about the structures of mushrooms, how to identify them. But yeah, I always take this one with me when I always take this one with me when I'm out foraging. Yeah, I'll read it, I'll pour through it before and after. Yeah, Helena's so cool. But yeah, those are a few of the books, but yeah, as I said, mushrooms of Western Canada. As I said, the way I learned was I got to do some mushroom forays. Robert Rogers has excellent mushroom walks. If you ever get to take a walk with him, I went with Patrick for some of my first mushroom walks. I've gone with Yarrow Willard, and I actually started taking a few people out on mushroom walks myself. I felt brave enough to do 2 or 3. Miranda's asking, what was the darn thick one? Mushrooms Demystified by David Aurora. This one, this is if you want to become like a very serious, that's if you want to get serious about mycology and keying out species. But look at that handsome, handsome man. Oh, he's got some big mushrooms, man. That's what eating mushrooms does to you. Hey, well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. I really appreciate my chance to share with you this presentation. It's an honor. It's all thanks to you.
All right, excellent. Okay, well, we're going to sign off from here. Thank you, everybody. And I won't unmute us right now because you heard what happened when we got the 2 computers together. It was the big echo going along there. So, okay, right on. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 5.
May the forest be with you, everybody.